Hello everyone, this is Mike with MADMAN Review. Glock is considered by many to be the most prevalent brand of pistols in the military and law enforcement markets, not just in the US, but all over the world, not counting communist countries of course, like China, North Korea, etc., as those countries' military forces prefer to eat their own dog food. Because of its popularity with the military and law enforcement, Glock is also one of the most popular brands in the civilian self-defense handguns market. But in the last year or so, rumors of Glock being the most returned pistol brand have been making the rounds online. I've owned a commander-sized 1911 and a .357 Magnum revolver with a 6-inch barrel for 2 decades, so personally I prefer the look and feel of heavy steel handguns over lightweight plastic ones. But I don't hate Glocks, or any other polymer-framed pistol for that matter. To me, all guns are tools, built for specific purposes. They all have their own raison d'etre, and Glocks are no different. If you need to chop wood, you wouldn't use a hammer, would you? With all that said, some people do have their reasons for returning the Glocks they purchased. In this video, I'll talk about the top 8 reasons why people are ditching their Glocks. Whether these reasons are valid or not, you can feel free to let me know by commenting down below. Number 8. Zero manual safety. Glock pistols are perfectly safe because of the trigger blade safety that Gaston designed. But Glock pistols were designed for military use, and military personnel all go through weapons training, which is why you never hear someone with military background accidentally shooting himself with a Glock. Give a loaded Glock to someone who has never held a gun before and has no prior knowledge of guns, and they will inevitably cause an accidental discharge. Is it the gun's fault? Hell no. But Gaston could surely start putting manual safeties to some of his guns, kind of like what Smith & Wesson did with their M&P Shield, some variants of which have a manual safety, others don't have one. How is that so difficult? Number 7. The snob effect. Glock as a brand has become too popular for its own good. Anywhere you look, you see a Glock. The police officer hanging out at the Tim Hortons downtown, the ATF agent knocking on your door, demanding that you show them your legally acquired firearms, or that friend of yours who has nothing better to do on a Sunday night than hang out with you and your cat. Ugh. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if your cat started carrying a Glock too? Glocks are everywhere, and there are some of us who refuse to be just like everyone else. In social psychology, they call it the reverse bandwagon effect or the snob effect, a type of cognitive bias that sounds as boring as Glock pistols do. I'm no psychologist, so I won't get deep into it. Suffice to say that there are those of us who dislike something that almost everyone else likes. Number 6. Expired Glock patents. The Gen 3 came out sometime in 1998. Patents are typically only valid for a maximum of 20 years and cannot be renewed afterward. This means that Glock's Gen 3 patent had expired in 2018, which allowed for all sorts of Gen 3 clones to be released since. Some of those clones include Polymer 80's PFC-9 and PFS-9, Palmetto State Armory's Dagger, Shadow Systems War Poet series, Zev Technologies OZ9 series, Rock Island Armory's STK-100, and Bull Armory's Axe series. Strictly speaking, these clones cannot look like exact copies of Glocks. They have to be slightly different from Glocks as far as their general appearance and aesthetics, because if they look too much like Glocks, their manufacturers can be sued for trade dress infringement. But because the Gen 3 patent is expired, anyone can copy all mechanical details inside Gen 3 Glock pistols, and they cannot be sued. And since all of the clones I mentioned offer something different or unique, they're all better buys than any Glock Gen 3. The more affordable clones are as good as Glock Gen 3 pistols, while the more expensive ones offer upgrades, typically seen in builds that come out of custom shops. Number 5. Reliable yet mushy trigger. Glock pistols are known for their mushy triggers. Anyone who's ever shot a Glock knows about it. It's adequate and will make the pistol go bang every time you pull it. Assuming you're using good ammo, it will get the job done. But it's also one of the most often replaced parts of any Glock pistol because of its mushy feel. Also, as I'll talk more about later, just being adequate isn't enough these days because unlike in the 80s and 90s when Glock had no competitors, there are now thousands of different polymer-framed pistol models on the market, some of which come with superb factory triggers. One such pistol is the Walther PDP Compact under the Walther PDP series. It's not too different from the Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS if we're comparing dimensions and features. Both have a 15-round mag capacity, and both are optics ready. The only real difference, besides their aesthetics, is their prices. The Walther PDP has an MSRP of $700, while the Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS has an MSRP of $620. That's an $80 difference. But the Walther PDP's trigger is lighter and smoother, has no trigger creep, and has a really short reset. The Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS's trigger has been greatly improved over previous generations, but it still has a longer reset and doesn't feel as smooth and as consistent as the Walther PDP's trigger. Number 4. Cheap plastic sights. Glock's plastic sights have become questionable. In CQB scenarios, nobody ever uses the factory sights on any handgun. It's why all good firearms training seminars include instinctive shooting drills, where people are taught to focus on pulling the trigger without making the gun move, while pointing it at the target without looking at the sights. Glock's plastic sights are serviceable, alright. Outside of the shooting range, you won't be needing them a lot. When you do need to use them, they work in a pinch. But it doesn't change the fact that they're made out of plastic. Why is that a big deal to some people like me? Because of the pistol's prices. Glock pistols used to be considered some of the most affordable pistols on the market, but today there are just too many polymer-framed pistols out there, some of which do have steel sights out of the box and are more competitively priced than their Glock counterparts. Take the Canik Mete SFT, for example. As far as dimensions and features, we can say it was modeled after the Glock 17, probably designed and built to compete with the Gen 5 MOS version of that pistol, because both of them are optics ready. Their only difference on their spec sheets is their ammo capacity. The Canik Mete SFT has an 18-round and a 20-round mag included in the box, while the latest and greatest Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS only has two 17-round mags. But the Canik Mete SFT has steel sights and has a low $520 MSRP, while the Glock 17 Gen 5 MOS has plastic sights and has a $620 MSRP. That's a $100 difference that can't be justified, especially when you factor in the proprietary holster that comes with a Canik pistol. Number 3. Lack of aesthetics. The generic blocky rectangular look is getting old. Even a supposedly cheaply made but highly respected budget gun like the Taurus G4X is more aesthetically pleasing than any Glock. I understand that when Gaston designed these pistols in the late 70s and released them for the Austrian military in the early 80s, he didn't care that these things looked ugly. Each pistol slide looks like a rectangular brick with the edges on the top and front rounded just enough so that they don't cut the operator's hand when racking it. The frame looks and feels like plastic, and it has that little beaver tail of sorts. The grip has textured sections on its surface for a solid purchase, and there are some indents all over the gun and a few external pins. It's okay on its own. It's supposed to be utilitarian after all. But combine that plastic frame with a blocky rectangular slide, and you get an ugly gun. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the ugliest modern pistols I can think of, the high points, Glock pistols rank 9. I can kind of understand why some people like the unassuming look of Glocks. A little under 4 decades ago, when the first of these pistols were released, there was nothing quite like them. But fast forward to today, most of Glock's polymer-framed striker-fired competitors have gone through a lot of aesthetic design changes. You can take a look at competing models by Sig Sauers, Smith & Wessons, Rugers, Walthers, Tauruses, etc. None of the pistols manufactured by those companies look as ugly as Glocks. Some Glock fanboys would say the pistols may be ugly, but they're highly reliable. I get that, but my point stands. Glock's aesthetics have aged terribly. Number 2. The company's complacency. Despite Glock having, quote, over 50 pistols in a variety of sizes, calibers, and styles, end quote, there's a severe lack of variety in the company's product offerings. If you think about it, Glock pistols only really differ in chambering, dimensions, weight, and price. Outside of those things, all Glock pistols of the same generation are the same, as far as their aesthetics, simplicity, and controls. Also, Glock rested on their laurels and stopped innovating. Some of their earliest models have seen gradual improvements over the course of 5 generations, but those improvements took decades to implement. Today, even with all those improvements, Glock pistols are seen by many as outdated. How so? Let's talk about modularity. Glocks used to be the only modular handguns on the market. Most models allow for caliber conversions by changing the barrel and recoil spring, but only between pistols with similar sized frames and magazines. For example, a Glock 20 and 10mm can be converted to shoot 45 ACP by putting a complete Glock 21 upper onto the Glock 20's frame and vice versa. But you can't convert a Glock 20 to shoot 9mm or any other caliber for that matter. Compare that kind of modularity to that of the SIG P250, the SIG P320, or the SIG P365. Those models don't just allow for caliber conversions between pistols with similar sized frames and magazines. They also allow for size conversions. If you have a SIG fire control unit, you can practically build any handgun size chambered for any handgun caliber you want, so long as you have the necessary frames, slides, springs, barrels, and mags. Glock can easily implement this, but they choose to stick with their old concept of modularity. Number 1. Terrible value proposition. Glock pistols have become expensive over the years. They started the whole polymer-framed striker-fired high-capacity craze. Yeah, I know some wise guy out there who would argue that honor belongs to the Heckler & Koch VP70. You would be correct, sir, but everyone knows that pistol had too many problems, so it never caught on. But getting back to the point, Glock started the whole polymer-framed striker-fired high-capacity craze, which means when the first Glock pistol was released, there was nothing like it on the market. Back then, only metal-framed pistols were being sold, and common sense dictates, since metal is more expensive than polymer, metal-framed pistols have higher prices. For that reason, Glock pistols enjoyed a considerable price advantage over all their competitors. But this was in the mid-80s to early 90s. Today, the only pistol manufacturer I know of that isn't making polymer-framed striker-fired pistols is Para-Ordnance. All major firearms manufacturers around the world are designing, developing, and building their own polymer-framed handguns. Some of those are much more affordable than the Glock models they directly compete with. Case in point, the Glock 43X MOS with a 10-round mag capacity has an MSRP of $549, while a Stoeger STR-9C, a Turkish polymer-framed striker-fired pistol with a 13-round mag capacity, has a significantly lower MSRP of $329. Granted, the Glock 43X has 2 mags, the STR-9C only comes with 1, but a spare 13-round mag for the STR-9C only costs $35 from the distributor's website. So, we are comparing a $549 Glock to a $364 pistol from some unknown Turkish firearms manufacturer. Both have backstraps, both come optics ready, and both are known to be reliable out of the box. If you don't care about politics, why would you bother with the Glock? And that's all I have for you in this video. If you purchased a Glock and returned it for any other reason besides the ones on my list, or if you simply don't like Glocks for whatever reason, feel free to let me know by commenting down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and click on that little bell icon so you don't miss out on any new content. And as always, thanks for watching.